Welcome to the We Love Wrestling spot. My name is Terry. I'm with Danielle from the Pretty Hills, also with Lauren, our We Love Wrestling Entertainment advisor. Today, we are with a group of people from the Midwest. They're from St. Louis. If you're in the wrestling ring and you're talking about wrestling, you should know the ropes, and they do know the ropes. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you, but this is the Know the Ropes podcast. How are you doing today, sirs?
Doing well today. We're doing well. Like you said, we are Know the Ropes Podcast, KTR. I am one of the co-hosts, Cinco. That's my alias.
I'm J-Bo. All day, all night. J-Bo, you already know. Also co-host.
Big off. Yes, sir. Big off. Number 3. Bring up the rear as usual, you know.
All right. So how we always start off here, I ask the first question is, and I ask all three of you if you can answer, what started your love for wrestling, or why do you love wrestling?
Sam, you start with that.
That's cool. Yeah, so with me, wrestling started off with probably around the age of 5. My grandfather got me into it. Like, we were together one day. He was flipping through channels, and we found a WCW show that was on TV one day, and we were watching it, and he was really into wrestling because he started talking to me about that, and he also mentioned stuff about wrestling at the Chase to me when I was young. That was a big thing going on in the Midwest, especially in the St. Louis area back in that day, like a long time before I was young or not even born yet, but it was because of him that he got me into it. And like ever since then, I was gravitated into like the WWE scene because that was like the mainstream. That's all I knew about. And as I got older, I got interested in, independent scenes, with TNA, then I gained on Ring of Honor. Then next, there's a whole big mecca of other type of wrestlings out there too with other indie scenes. It's like little small promotions in our local area. So that's how I got into it.
Yeah. Yeah, mine's actually kind of similar to Cinco's. When I was growing up, my brothers, they were all like sports champions and league division 1 athletes, but like I was never into sports. And I remember one day my brother and my father, they was in the living room and they was watching WWF at the time, and it was the classic segment with The Rock and Chris Jericho and Stephanie McMahon. And I remember they was in there, they was bugging up, and I came in and I saw it, and I just was drenched with it. I wanted to learn as much as I could. So similar to Cinco, my father told me about wrestling at the Chase down the heart of St. Louis, and then I started picking up more and more, watching shows back when Velocity and Heat was on, and SmackDown Raw, of course. So yeah, it just like grew up from there. Like that was my first sports related love that I had.
Gotcha. So my second question, you're in the St. Louis area.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask, you talk about the wrestling in that area. Do you, who's the big name out of St. Louis since you got to know the ropes? So I'm going to ask you both.
Well, if you go off that big name, like you going, JR? Well, if you're going off of big names in the St. Louis area, you got to go Randy Orton, number 1. Obviously, current right now, big name. He's actually from the area that we grew up in, pretty much, like right here in our local area, like within St. Louis. So that's another big thing. So he's the big name. Then you can also add,
you can put Evan Bourne or Matt Seidler
too. Yeah, you can add him as well.
You can put Davey Richards from Ring of Honor over there. You can kind of put Michael Elgin over there as well, because his wife is over here. So yeah, there's a few big names that you can really consider.
Exactly. So it's a number of them, but number 1 definitely Mr. RKO himself. Yes.
We don't care if he's heel or face. We are definitely
no matter what.
No matter what.
Because he's from the area. See,
that's right.
That's what people got to understand.
It's loyalty.
Loyalty, right.
Terry asked a very good question. Hi, guys.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks. I'm kind of the entertainment person, but Terry kind of took the question right from under me because I was going to ask you guys, who do you guys think the best wrestler out of the Midwest is? And you guys gave a really good answer, so we'll move along. But today, big news came out that The Rock and his partner, Danny Garcia, bought the XFL. I kind of want to know what you guys' thoughts were on that, and what do you see him doing with it in the future?
See, with you want.
Look, I gotta say, because y'all know The Rock, my boy. Everything Dwayne The Rock Johnson touches is gold. Ever since he got with, you know, his ex-wife Danny Garcia, and she started being his manager, from movies to TV roles to in-ring wrestling returns to ownership with his ventures, everything he has done has turned to gold. Even though the XFL had their blunders twice now that The Rock has Cinco, he made a comment on Twitter, and it can't be any more perfect. He's really out here cooking now. So if you haven't smelled what he's cooking, you have to smell it now. So beautiful decision. I even if it fails, I still believe it's going to be successful. I don't care. The Rock, let's get it.
Dwayne Johnson.
I just want to check you right quick. I will have to put an asterisk to the XFL's second blunder. It was beyond their control. So I think they were doing good. We got to kind of give them the benefit of the doubt for the most part.
That's true.
I'm devil's advocate. I'm a heel. I'm sorry.
Good. Gotta look out. I got you.
But following with that, what J-Bo said, The Rock, a.k.a. Dwayne Johnson, a.k.a. Spencer Strassmore from the Ballers, pulled off the inevitable with that. It was crazy. It was like watching a movie with him being successful with getting that. And we're excited, too, because, you know, we have an XFL team since our NFL team went to the West Coast. So the Battlehawks. Yeah, we are excited for them to come back, and I believe that once this pandemic flies by eventually in time, and we can get back to doing regular things, I feel like it will be a successful league going forward.
Yeah. The question about the best wrestler out of the Midwest.
It would have to be Randy Orton. They know I'm not an Orton fan by any means, but yeah, it had to be him.
So many of you non-Orton fans. And then I think we moved on and talked about The Rock and his partner Danny Garcia buying the XFL, and kind of wanted you guys' feedback. And we got 2 thumbs up. So
yeah, I mean it's ultimately a good thing. Especially he got it for a steal. He got an entire organization, and it was still pretty fresh. Like I said, it was really not their fault. That the second time around it didn't really work out. It was actually gaining traction, especially we know here in St. Louis, people still have Battlehawks flags and stuff in their yard. So we were just dying to have a football team. So I know it was going to work out, and I feel like with The Rock and his team, yeah, this is gonna be a touchdown.
I agree. I don't think The Rock can do any wrong.
Yeah.
I guess moving back into wrestling, I guess right now in our day and age, the climate in the world, there's a lot of activism going on, and we see like the New Day wearing their armbands, and you know they have a shirt for charity. So I kind of want to know your thoughts on that and how it's intermingling into what we see on TV and wrestling.
Let's see, Jay Harvey, since you had barely the opportunity in the beginning, we'll let you start with that one.
We've actually talked about that subject a lot on our podcast, a little bit, I think, in every episode, even up until the most recent episode, activism and especially Black representation in the wrestling ring. I feel like it's been done tastefully. It's been really subtle, like you're talking about with the armbands. It hasn't really been overwhelming. I feel like it shouldn't be super radical, like a Nation of Domination type thing. I feel like it's being done properly. We're getting a lot of mid-card shine right now. I would still like to see a lot of main event roles being taken, but steady as we roll.
That's good. Well, then to layer this question a little bit, and this probably has nothing to do with it or everything to do with it, but we've had Naomi or Trinity have some issues or have her fans come out in support of her. And then we've had a veteran or a former champion come out and say, no, you're wrong. How does that tie into this Black movement, or does it tie in? Or because hers is mostly the fans, but also it's like, is it related? Is it not related? Do you see him be more or need to be more of a mentor, especially because it's a woman of color, or what?
Sam, you want to take this?
Take that.
Do what I do, Sam. What do you want to do, Sam?
It's funny because our last episode was about Naomi Deserves Better on that topic with her and mentioned Booker T as well with that. Mainly with me, when he made that response towards the hashtag thing, personally, I didn't think it was mainly race related, honestly. But at the same time, it's like he has his old school mentality mixed in with his WWE business mentality, and it's real conflicting when he tries to like express himself towards the younger talent, especially of color, about how they should proceed within the business. And it kind of throws a lot of people off because the way he comes off is it sounds like a little disheartening, or he's putting us down pretty much. So with that necessarily, I don't think it was really race related with that, but at the same time, he probably should do a tad better with choices of words and like how he should encourage wrestling superstars of color within the business.
Correct. I mean, we see him come at, Big E recently too.
Yes.
And then Big E just rolled on down the ramp. So
he has really negative tendencies. I said in episode 5, I feel like, especially until he came at Big E, I feel like it was more he had an issue with it being a black woman. He didn't say anything about Kofi. He didn't say anything about Daniel Bryan. Big E's push really isn't as much a result of fans clamoring for it, even though fans have been clamoring for it, as much as the hashtags with Naomi, Daniel Bryan, Kofi, people like that. But I'm not feeling Book. Not feeling Book. Come on, Book.
I had to piggyback off that. Yeah, the thing that got me was that Booker T mentioned in his interview is that the wrestlers should not be pushed up based on hashtags or whatever. You should earn that spot or whatever. But if you look at a lot of wrestlers like Jay Harv said, fans spoke out. Fans spoke out. They said who they wanted, and then that's how they got up there. But isn't that the essence of pro wrestling? Listening to the fans and then letting the fans pick who they want to see. So on that aspect alone is like Booker. You're pretty much just telling the fans should not choose who the fans want to pay money or tune in to see. So it was a lot of issues on that end. But that was one of the bigger ones that stood out to me, because he's essentially saying, fans, be quiet. If she earned it, she earned it. She did, she didn't. Right. And that I didn't agree.
Agreed. I totally feel you. I thought it was pretty disturbing, but also I understood where he was coming from with the clash, like you said, of the old school and then the new school. Like, I'm a coach, so it's a line that I have to stay far away from, of like, hey, it's not how it used to be when I played, right?
That's true. Yeah.
And
I get that.
One thing I do want to interject is the fans are demanding, right, that these people become champions because they have been in the forefront and they have showcased what they can do. So it's not like we're asking for Jordan Grace to come in and get the women's title, right?
Right.
We're saying we've seen what Naomi's capable for. We've seen her run through the women's roster on Raw and on SmackDown, and she is entitled to having multiple opportunities of winning and being the women's champion, whether it's SmackDown or Raw. That's what we're saying. So it's not just, we're rooting for Mickey Mouse. We're rooting for someone who we've watched. We've watched her progress. We've watched her as a Funkadelic, right? Now we've watched her be women's champion, and we watched her be a pinnacle of the women's division in the WWE. Same thing for Big E. We watched him as the NXT champion, right? We've watched him run through people. We watched him run up against people, and now we're looking for him to be, at the pinnacle and become either a heavyweight or a universal champion. So it's not, you guys, I totally agree, but it's not just the fans wanting Mickey Mouse, right, to be champion. We want champions of quality that look like us. That's what we're saying. And we want more of them. We don't want you to just give us one. You got one, go sit down and be quiet. No. There are tons of people who look like us who are capable of holding that belt. So, not just give us what we want because we're entitled to it, or
what we deserve, what we earn.
What they deserve, right?
Yeah.
So that I just wanted to make sure we said that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, totally agree. I guess my last question is one that I ask everybody. And I know we kind of celebrated the women's evolution, last week or maybe a week before. But for me, it's women all day, every day, because I am a woman and I'm a person of color. So I guess, who's on your Mount Rushmore of women's wrestling?
Ooh.
That's my question.
Dope question.
That's a good one.
Okay, hold on. Wait.
Because I'm doing a project, but
I gotta write that down real quick.
I know. Hold on. Wait a minute.
you guys need time? Should we circle back around?
Yeah, just give me like 2-3 minutes. I got three of them already.
Right.
So I can jump in the meantime, just so that there isn't awkward silence. I'll say, just circling back to the grouping of you guys, how did you guys come together to form the Know the Ropes podcast? And while you're, coming up with your Mount Rushmore.
See, with that, we all actually went to the same high school.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we first all met each other. And me and J-Bo were in the same graduating class. Jay Harv, two grades older than us, so he was an upperclassman. So with that, I think it was like later after we had graduated, and like we were on Facebook one day, and somebody made like a comment or a post about wrestling, and so one of us chimed in, and another person chimed in, and we just figured out we all liked wrestling at that point. Then it just like started growing over the years. We just kept interacting on Facebook about wrestling pretty much every time a pay-per-view comes up or something pops up on like one of the regular shows during the week. And then like over time, that's how our brotherhood got closer over the years because of wrestling pretty much. And with that, we talked about doing a podcast roughly 2 years ago. And going with that, it just kept getting pushed off because life came up. We're always busy. They had families. I was always out about on the road. And now the pandemic came up. It's a lot of time on our hands now. It was like, might as well do it. And we had the time. So we just invest our time into this project, and we got No Ropes podcast together.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Is anyone ready to start with their Mount Rushmore?
Oh, no. Me by another big distraction.
What y'all still ain't got it yet?
You mean it's one name I can't get my finger on.
Okay, so I guess in the interim, I can this will be my roundabout question, but I guess we'll circle this into the Rushmore, closing it out. So my last question would be, what is the future? Mentioning that you guys are colleagues, right? High school colleagues, classmates for the most part, went to the same high school. And now it's grown from that to a friendship, and maybe your podcast formed during the COVID season, I like to call it, which is one of the gifts, right, of what's going on here. A lot of the stuff that, like, we actually wouldn't be doing this right now if it wasn't for COVID.
Right.
So I want to say, COVID aside, and say that the world opens up tomorrow, what is the future of Know the Ropes podcast?
Future, man. To be honest, we're a group who enjoys and thrives off of the wrestling world, and honestly, with that, we're building our following for a bunch of other people who also agrees to also come along this wonderful journey with us. To be honest, the sky's the limit for us. We're honestly just coming together, just doing what we love, and just letting our journey just take its own course.
Well said. Yeah. As long as the wrestling world inspires me, I'm down to keep it going. As long as my brothers are able, and as long as I'm feeling what's going on.
Yeah.
This is a good place to be.
One last thing, I'm not sure if you mentioned it or not. So are you guys WWE guys, or do you do the host of wrestling?
We do everything.
Everything.
So WWE is honestly, obviously like one of the bigger ones, but no, we cover Impact, we cover Ring of Honor. Jay Harv is real big over there on New Japan over there as well. Even independents, guys and gals coming up on the independent scene, we watch everywhere.
Okay, that's good to know, because I know I've noticed in the spotlights that we've done in the past they've been, you know, they say that they do wrestling, but you can tell that there's an undertone and there's a focus. So, you know, we've had people who focus on AEW and people who focus on WWE. I just wanted to see, because, you know, we love wrestling. We really try to be diverse in the sense of what, you know, we literally love wrestling. Like, for instance, I think yesterday Terry was at a show out in Indiana, GCW, one of their shows. I was actually watching at home. Saturday night, I watched the Talking Shop Mania. I'm not sure if any of you got to watch that. If you do, it's hilarious. Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. It's kind of their makeshift pay-per-view. It's really entertaining if you get a chance, which is something totally independent. And then we watched, you know, a host of everything else. So I was just, you know, just checking the undertone. But Lauren, I'm gonna kick it back to you since you proposed the Mount Rushmore question.
I'm here. Ready.
All right, who wants to go first?
You already spoke, so go ahead.
All right, now, as a disclaimer, this is my current Mount Rushmore. I have a feeling that as I get older, my girl Bianca Belair will be on that list. Let me just put that on there because I'm going to be watching her in the years to come. Now, Mount Rushmore of all time, I have to put Trish Stratus and Lita on that list. I had to put both of them on there because I remember growing up, no matter what match they had, I was just interested. I also had to put my girl Jazz on there. Jazz dominated the women's scene as a strong black woman, and not just as that, but like she was entertaining, man. Like she can step into the ring with pretty much anybody, male, female, does not matter, and she could bring the house down with
your ass. Yeah.
that's not like really intimidating. Got to put Jazz on there. And this last one I'm gonna do for my father because he loved Luna Vachon. My father always talked about her growing up. Honestly, she was one of the first female wrestlers that he had me pay attention to at a young age, even though I didn't get that much of a pleasure to watch her. But just because my father loved her and he introduced me to her, I had to put her on the Mount Rushmore list.
So before anyone else goes, I just want to, you know, I'm doing the devil advocate thing. You said Lita, Trish Stratus, and Lita.
No, I said Trish Stratus, Lita, Luna.
No, I get that, but I was asking because you said when they got in the ring together, they were not, you know, they were what they were. Are we having them take up one slot, or are we giving them two individual slots?
We're giving them two individual slots. You know,
for conversation's sake, a lot of people always group them together, you know.
And that's very true. However, just because, you know, I mean, they can be grouped together, but they're also just as amazing separately. Trish Stratus had numerous great storylines without Lita. Lita had great storyline, not even just with the Hardy Boys, but let's just be honest. Lita and Edge was one of the most prominent storylines of our generation. So, no, they can be great together, but they're equally great separately. So, let's put them in their own categories, respectively.
Perf.
Yeah.
So, I'll go next, then. Like he usually go last. All right. My Mount Rushmore, first going to start off with Trish Stratus. That's number one. Number two I have is Chyna. Yeah. First and only woman to win the Intercontinental title.
Absolutely.
I have that. Number three, Jacqueline. She was literally like my favorite women's wrestler back in the day when I was younger. And also she was the first and only cruiserweight champion when she beat Chavo Guerrero.
There you go.
Got that. I remember it. Yeah. And last but not least, number four, this is Jay Har's favorite women's wrestler.
Wait.
Charlotte Flair.
Wait, is that sarcasm? Wait a minute.
Charlotte Flair is number four in the last person on his Mount Rushmore.
Shots fired. Wait a minute.
You're not getting into it.
This list looks a little familiar. All right.
Charlotte Flair.
Wow.
I'm sorry. Right.
What do we have against Charlotte Flair?
A lot. That's not what we're talking about.
He had to let down his hair. He let down his hair for that one.
No, we're talking about it.
Okay. I'll let it slide.
All right, I'm going to do mine. I had Chyna as well. as well as Jazz as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm switching it up a little bit because y'all too much Trish in there. I'm gonna throw out Mickey. I feel like Mickey was a better wrestler than Trish.
Ooh,
I know how I feel about Mickey.
Arguable.
Yeah,
right.
and for the sake of slightly new school, AJ Lee.
And you
AJ
know,
Lee changed the game.
She was on my radar too.
She changed the game.
Yeah, she was on mine.
She made it possible for the current crop to get to where they are today. So AJ Lee gets that last spot.
Okay, I like that. There are a lot of familiar names on this list.
Yeah,
so, for sure. That's all I got, Danielle.
So I guess in rounding it out, we want to have you guys share your social medias, where people can reach you, what day of the week, again, reiterate, they can listen to your podcast, what platforms your podcasts are on.
Okay. Well, it's like this Know the Ropes podcast. We are on Twitter and Instagram at KTR_podcast. We're also on Facebook, Know the Ropes podcast. We also have Apple Podcasts underneath Know the Ropes podcast. We also are on YouTube as well. We Know the Ropes podcast. We also have Anchor. We're on Spotify. We're on Google Podcasts and all that. My individual social media handle is Vivir Cinco, VIVIRCINKO. And also we have J-Bo and Big Hard J Harv. I forgot y'all social media handles.
You can catch J-Bo at J Lion Body. That's J Lion Body, exactly as you hear. You can catch me on Facebook at J Burton. That's JAY space Burton, BURTON. Let's get it.
I'm an old man. I honestly don't know how you can find me on social media.
He literally just made his Twitter account when we started.
Devon Harvey, Devon, spelled with 2 A's. Please don't misspell my name. You'll find somebody else. Instagram, Miles Jackson, JAXON 76. Don't ask me my Twitter. I just made it. I don't know how to change the handle. So catch me on the KTR Twitter, baby. Yeah.
And that's the We Love Wrestling spot. I'm Terry from WeLoveWrestling.com. I'm with Lauren from WeLoveWrestling.com, Danielle with the Pretty Heels, and we were talking with Know the Ropes podcast. You can listen to them, I believe, every Tuesday, and they gave you their social media. But like I always say, if I love wrestling and you love wrestling, then we love wrestling. It's too sweet for the culture.